It is a beautiful day in Chiefs Kingdom. We got wonderful fall weather and wonderful news to share. The Chiefs picked up a legitimate wide receiver threat after being decimated by injuries. They brought DeAndre Hopkins on board yesterday, and I'm here to talk about this with you here on RGR Football. I am Gary McKenzie, your host. Welcome to another episode of RGR Football. So the Chiefs made a big splash, making a trade yesterday with the Tennessee Titans for DeAndre Hopkins. I'm sure all of you are aware of this by now. The Chiefs traded a 5th or 4th round conditional pick based on whether or not the Chiefs make the Super Bowl and DeAndre Hopkins gets 60% of the snaps. So they'll most likely either give a 5th or a 4th, and it's dependent upon whether or not the Chiefs make the Super Bowl. So they'll give up the 4th if Kansas City makes the Super Bowl and Hopkins plays a majority of the snaps. But what about DeAndre Hopkins? He is 32 years old. And last season, when he was 31 in 2023, with Will Levis and Ryan Tannehill throwing him the ball, he had 1,057 yards and 7 touchdowns. This is not 3 years ago. This is not 4 years ago. This is last season. DeAndre Hopkins has been productive as of a year ago. So far in 2024, he's 32 years old. He has 173 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. So he's not been very productive this year, which makes us all wonder, okay, who is DeAndre Hopkins going to be on the Chiefs? What level of play can we expect from him? The first thing I want to say about DeAndre Hopkins is that he has the 21st most receiving yards in NFL history. This is not just some flash-in-the-pan wide receiver. This is a guy that's been doing it for a long time, and he's been successful for a long time. Of those 20 players that are above DeAndre Hopkins in the all-time wide receiver list for receiving yards, one of them retired when they were 33 years old. One of them retired when they were 34. 3 of them retired when they were 35. 4 of them retired when they were 36. 7 of them retired when they were 37. 3 of them retired when they were 38. And then 1 of them retired when they were 42 years old. So, the majority of these players at the age of 32 still had 3 or 4 seasons left in the tank. So I think that this will also be the case for DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's going to see a little bit of a resurgence in Kansas City, and he's going to put forward some numbers better than what he did in Tennessee so far this year. I don't know if he has another 1,000-yard receiving season left in him, but I do think he's got plenty left in the tank. And that one receiver, by the way, that played until they were 42 years old, that would be none other than Jerry Rice. And Jerry Rice, to this day, still has what I believe to be the most unbelievable stat in NFL history, and that is that at 40 years old, he had a 1,000-yard season. At 40 years old at the wide receiver position. That's just unbelievable. But why do I think that DeAndre Hopkins is going to be productive in Kansas City? And the main reason for that is because I believe he has the possibility of having some synergy with Patrick Mahomes. DeAndre Hopkins, in his past, had always been an athletic wide receiver, but what often got disregarded or maybe underappreciated about his game is that he is a very cerebral wide receiver. He will fit in with Travis Kelce and Mahomes in zone defense and zone looks so well. He is going to find the open spot. And if the Raiders want to play zone defense a lot in this Sunday's matchup, then I could see DeAndre Hopkins having a decent amount of snaps and getting out on the field and having a moderate impact. In terms of his impact going down the road, right now the Chiefs are without Juju Smith-Schuster, hurt his hamstring. Those things take a long time to heal up. You got to rest them, let them get back to their normal strength, and then you can start working them out again. Then you can get back on the field. They take some time. And depending on the severity of the injury, Juju Smith-Schuster could be out anywhere from 3 weeks to 6, 7, 8 weeks. We don't know. So at this point in time, it's Kelce, Worthy, and Hopkins. They're going to be kind of leading the show. And then also, I wouldn't be surprised to see McCole Hardman sprinkled in there some more. So the Chiefs need Hopkins to have an impact very early on. And I think that a reasonable workload versus the Raiders would be very small, but I could see him getting ramped up and getting better as the season progresses, kind of coalescing and culminating in the playoffs where he's finally at his best level for the Chiefs. So, majority of players that have been ahead of DeAndre Hopkins in the top 20 of receivers of all time, the majority of them played until they were 35, 36, 37, 38 years old. And I don't think there's any reason why DeAndre Hopkins also could not do that. Now, there's been a bit of a sway away from older wide receivers as of recent history in the NFL, but there have still been some recent wide receivers, within the last 10 years who have had monster seasons when they were 32, 33 years old. So Andre Johnson in 2013, he was 32 years old. He had 1,400 yards, 5 touchdowns. Steve Smith, 2011, 32 years old, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns. Larry Fitzgerald, 32 years old, 1,215 yards, 9 touchdowns in 2015. Julian Edelman, 33 years old, 1,117 yards, 6 touchdowns in 2019. And then Anquan Boldin had monster seasons when he was 33, 34 years old. So these are guys in recent history who have had great seasons well into their 30s at the wide receiver position. And I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to a really good place. There's a huge difference between Ryan Tannehill last year and Will Levis this year and last year and Patrick Mahomes. So I would not be surprised if both Mahomes and Hopkins saw a mutual benefit from this partnership where both of their statistics improved. That would not surprise me one bit. Moving on to the Raiders. So first, before I talk about the Raiders, I want to talk about Mahomes so far this season. 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, has not played his best football. However, I think if you analyze who he's had to throw the ball to so far this year, with Rashee Rice being out, and then Juju Smith-Schuster getting hurt, there hasn't been a lot of consistency in the receiving room for Patrick Mahomes. Teams are bracketing Travis Kelce, double-teaming Travis Kelce, and it's really caused him a lot of problems this year. So that is one of the main reasons why they went to go get Hopkins, because they know they need to get better in the passing game. I still believe the Chiefs had what they needed to go and win the Super Bowl, but Hopkins adds insurance to that. So this Raiders game for Patrick Mahomes could be an offensive get-right game. We've seen this before, What's the best way to get out of the slump for the Chiefs? Play the Raiders. They've done this many times throughout Patrick Mahomes' career. Maybe they've had a few rough games offensively. They go and play the Raiders. What do you know? They score 40 points. The Raiders so far this season are 29th in points allowed. So they're third from the last in allowing the most points in the NFL. However, they've been good at keeping opponents to a low yardage total. So they're 11th in yards allowed. Offensively, the Raiders are 25th in points scored, 26th in yards. So all things considered, this is a vulnerable opponent that the Chiefs will be facing. Aiden O'Connell had been starting for the Raiders, but he broke his thumb, and now he's put on the injured reserve, and Gardner Minshew resumes the starting role. Personally, I think the Raiders are actually better with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, even though he's thrown 4 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. He still has 1,168 passing yards, so when he's been in the game, he's thrown for high yardage totals. He just has a problem with throwing to the wrong team. In terms of who Minshew will have to throw the ball to, right now, the past couple weeks, it's been the Brock Bowers show for the Raiders. It's Brock Bowers versus the world. He's really the only guy on the offensive side of the ball for the Raiders who's done much of anything, especially with Jacoby Myers out. Jacoby Myers has been their leading wide receiver, even more receiving yards than Devontae Adams, and he's going to be coming back most likely from an ankle injury, so the Raiders will have their leading receiver back to work with Brock Bowers, but offensively still, I do not think the Raiders are that much of a threat to the Chiefs defense, and you would want to look at the Chiefs defense lock down and play solid defense versus this unit. And I'm also optimistic and kind of happy that this is Najee Johnson's first kind of role as a starter for a full game. This is a good team to get his feet wet with, kind of get acclimated, and a good challenge for him versus the Raiders. Defensively for the Raiders, we all know that it's the Max Crosby show. They've been one of the worst teams in terms of points allowed. Max Crosby has 6.5 sacks. The next closest person on their team has 2. So that's going to be essentially what the Raiders try to do defensively, is just create chaos, have Max Crosby get a few sacks here or there. That's the way they're going to try to stop the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to continue to want to be methodical. They're going to get DeAndre Hopkins involved a little bit, just get his feet a little wet. But as my prediction goes, I'm 6-0 right now predicting Chiefs wins. It's easy to predict games for the Chiefs because they always win. And as a Chiefs pundit, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, just pick them to win every time. Obviously, I'm picking them to win this game this week. I think they have a good offensive output. I'm going to say the Chiefs win 33-13. It's not a close game at all. They blow them out. And remember, there's a Chiefs flag buried underneath the Raiders stadium, and the Chiefs have never lost there. And we'll see how long the curse of the flag lives on, but this is one of my favorite bits of Chiefs lore. So props to that construction worker that buried the flag. Now's your turn to let me know in the comments what's your prediction for the game. I think we're at 29,800 subscribers. We're trying to get to 30,000. We are so close. We have grown so many subscribers since I came on board here. I'm so blessed and fortunate to get this opportunity to talk with you on this platform. Got nothing but love and respect for all you Chiefs fans. And here's to another great Sunday. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you've not done so already. But this is Gary signing out. Y'all take care.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.